Okay, so welcome back to the OSDC, the Open Source Developer Course for Perl programmers. Hi, Steve. Now this is only the two of us, but we're going to get ahead of the other people who didn't come. Let me share the screen where I put, let me change it a little bit here this way. Okay. So this is the file that we have in our repository. And I just put here a couple of notes to what to show, okay, for today. And then we can go with this. Okay, so this is the first one. Okay, whatever. So I wanted to show you this one first of all. That you remember that we were last time we were working on that Docker image that I called my Docker, I think, and we put all kind of stuff in it. Now I renamed it since then, and now I'm calling it Playground. And I'm still thinking if I should just rename it to Sandbox instead, but it's now called Playground. Okay, and I open this. There's some stuff open in the browser already that I wanted to talk about. So it's in this is the URL, and I put the URL in our README file. This is the URL of the project. Actually, I found that I had already had a project like this, partially specifically for Perl. So I just put the Docker file from that Perl project here. It's not in use right now. I just put it here in case I would like to have a separate Docker image for Perl. What I did, I also added to this Docker file tons of packages from this Zilla.
Okay.
Okay. And also that will cover, so we'll be able to easily run coverage reports. So this is what we have in this one. And I also changed a little bit how it's being created, and this is in the README now. So this is basically how I build it locally. So this is the same as it was earlier, except that the name is now not my Docker, but this name, which is a slightly strange, but you'll see why it's that strange. So it's subgob because that is my username in most of the places. And then this is the name basically of the image. And this is the label. So the label can be anything. If you don't supply a label, then it's called latest. So it will pick up the latest. But you can use various labels. So if you go to the Docker Hub, you will, and then let's say Ubuntu. No, that's Postgres. Postgres. If you go to Postgres, then the name of the image is Postgres, and then these are the various labels that they use. And these labels usually indicate something like the version number, maybe the underlying operating system, the version of that operating system, and so on. So you can specify easily which Docker image or which version of that Docker image you would like to use. Okay?
Okay.
So in my case, I just said, let's call it for now latest. I don't do this versioning. I don't have that different types of this image yet. Maybe later I will have a Perl specific version and the Python specific version. But for now, I'll just play this one. Everything is in there. So this is how I would build it. And then this is the dr command, this alias. And here too, I changed it so it will use that name. So far it's okay. But now, so far it's the same basically as earlier, just to change the name. But I also added here two additional commands. One of them is Docker login. It will log in my command line Docker command on the command line to this Docker Hub. Okay, so when I run Docker login, it will ask for my credentials in this Docker Hub. Okay, for that, obviously, I had to create a user. So I guess register. Okay, so I have this Docker Hub. I registered. I'm going to sign in now. So I'm already logged in apparently. And my username is subgub here, okay? So this is what I did, I logged in. And then once I built it, the image locally, I also ran Docker push for that image name.
Okay.
Okay. This means that now if we go to this website and you search for, I guess if you search for playground, maybe it will even find it, I don't know. Subgub playground. Well, obviously, so more people have this name, but you can get here to this project, okay? And you can now use it. So you don't actually, if you would like to use my Docker image, you don't need to build it yourself. You can just say Docker run for that image, exactly like here. So anyone else except me can have only this one. They don't need they don't need the Git repository. They don't need anything. They can already use my image as I have uploaded it.
Okay.
Okay. Questions here?
Not just yet. I've got some. Yeah, carry on.
Okay. So this is a public image, and I think you can have one private image in this Docker Hub in the free version of them, and then you can pay some money, and then you can have, I think, somewhere, probably they have some pricing. Okay, I don't know. Docker pricing. Let's see this one. So yeah, so for $5 per month, you can already have unlimited private repositories. And I don't know how many people can connect to it, or how do you give access to these private repositories, okay? I don't know, I haven't paid it, okay? So this is what I have. What I couldn't do, and I'm looking for it now, but I don't see it. Oh yeah, no, it's somewhere. It's there. Build. Yeah, concurrent builds. Okay.
Okay.
Auto builds. Okay, so this one doesn't have the auto build anymore. I think they used to have, but as I understand, it doesn't have. So so now, if I want to upload an image, I have to build it myself locally, and then use this Docker push to build it, to push it out. Okay.
Okay.
But the auto build was, and I think this is the service. So I think this was the service, a way to configure your account on Docker, that it will be and your GitHub account. So every time you push out your GitHub account, it will trigger a build on the Docker hub. So you don't have to build it yourself. It will do it for you. Okay. Now it didn't take a lot of time on my whatever optical connection to the internet to upload it, so it wasn't an issue. But if you have a big image and a slow connection, then it might take some time to upload it, because our upload speeds are not that fast usually. But I mean, nowadays I have this optical connection, and whatever 5 megabit per second upload. So even the upload is very fast, so it's not really an issue. But obviously, if I would like to have more private repositories, then I guess I have to pay. Whatever. Okay. And then I would get that added feature of not needing to care myself about all this process, just letting it do its thing. So that's it. about this playground image. And then there are, as I mentioned, there's this Perl folder, which is I just saved it there for now, so I won't have two separate repositories with the same idea. And one day I might separate these Docker images to have a specific one for Perl, Lish stuff, and a specific one for Pythonish stuff, and so on.
Okay.
Okay. So that's this. This is about this, and you. So that's nothing else with this one. Okay. Then the other thing is that we talked about Docker Compose a little bit. So I would like to show you one of my projects, which is doing that, and this is the PyDigger project. And we'll also talk about the PyDigger website, but this is the website. Okay, so have I mentioned it earlier?
Yeah.
So I have these three projects now running: the cpandigger, the RubyDigger, and the PyDigger, collecting data from the respective third-party library repositories. So from cpandigger, it's called cpandigger because it's fetching data from cpan, and then from there it's collecting data. And the RubyDigger is from the whatever it's called, RubyGems, and I called it PyDigger. And the big difference between the three is that these two, the cpandigger and the RubyDigger, are running basically as a GitHub action on GitHub, and they are static pages. And these are and then the PyDigger is running on my server, and it uses MongoDB as the database. And if you are asking why, well, I don't really know. Originally, I started this because this is what I thought. It was, I think, before GitHub Actions was that powerful, or before I learned how to use it that way. And then cpandigger came along, and it had several versions. One of them was using the database and was running on my server. And at one point I said, okay, actually for cpan I don't need that much data, because MetaCpan already has many of the data that I would want, that I needed for PyDigger. So there a flat file would be fine, and then displaying it in here. But anyway, this is the PyDigger project, and this is the source code, and it has a Docker Compose in it. Okay, and in this Docker Compose file, what I say, and I think actually this is incorrect. So I know this is incorrect, just noticed it I think yesterday, and I think I'll fix it later. But this is what I have. I have one service which I called web, another service which I called cron. This is the one that is collecting the data, and the third service called my Mongo, which is the MongoDB database. Okay, so these are the three parts of the. This is the web application. This is the service that collects the data, and this is just where the database is. So the easiest one here is the database. It uses the actually rather old now MongoDB version. It has some username and secret, and it doesn't really matter. I think not even showing this, and this is also in GitHub, because this is only internally. They are connecting only in the network locally, not from the outside. I mean, I guess if it was if the data was more, I mean, this is just read-only data, okay?
Yeah.
I'm collecting some data and pushing there, and then more people can read it in different ways. So that it doesn't have anything that really needs protecting, okay? So I didn't care about that much. And then we have this MongoDB volumes, okay? So these are actually I think only the first two are really needed. The third one I use only for backup. So these are to put the backup there. So I have these one that MongoDB needs to store. On one of them, it stores the database, and the other one is, of course, some configuration information. So that's some internal MongoDB thing. And here I define the actual volumes. So here I define the actual volumes, allocating some disk space. And here I am mapping the volume to a folder in the image, in the container. Okay, so this is what happened. And for some reason, I also defined the host name here, so they will be able to connect to each other. I think today I would just use the name of the service. I don't remember why I used a separate definition of host name. Okay, so this is basically the name that can be used by the other services to connect to this one. Okay, so they have an internal network, and this is how they know it. Docker container sets up this basically DNS resolution between them. And there's another one here. It says restart, the restart option. It's especially important for production. So if the server goes down, let's say I reboot my server where I run this, it will restart the service or the services when my host computer is booted. Okay, or if anything else happens to this image, it will restart it unless I stop it myself. Okay, so this is the MongoDB database, and then here are the two of my images basically, and both of them has this build and context and Docker file, and this is the same. So what really happens here is that when I start this Docker container, it will build the image, and because I duplicated this, it will build the image twice, and that's what I said at the beginning that I should fix it. Now, it's not a huge issue because once the first build and then the second one starts building it, it will use the cache of the first one. So there's no real, not huge issue, but I think it will be better to, and I did it in some other project already, to say that, okay, this will build it and this will use the image that was built by the other one. Okay.
So how would you do that then?
Yeah, I'll have to look at the other project, but I don't want to share that on the screen because that's a client project.
Okay.
No, don't worry. I'm looking at it on another screen.
No, it's fine. I've got another question.
Okay.
So down to the volumes, you've just got basically labels there. And how are you going to map those to sort of real things like real directories or whatever?
Sorry?
Down at the bottom, you've got volumes.
I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to know where are these.
Okay. I thought those were going to be essentially mapped to real directories on your system or not.
No. So the reason I'm using these volumes is because I don't want to map to specific directories. I want to Docker to handle it.
Okay, I think.
Okay. Now there's another issue that you might want to map all these folders to some space. So if you want to control where they are, then you have two options. One of them is to say here that the external folder is Kukuriku, whatever, okay? And now this internal thing will be mapped to that on the host computer. And then we don't need this volume here. Okay.
So the fact you need it is something about Mongo, is it?
Sorry?
I'm not sure why you need it at all. But
so Mongo needs two.
Okay, that's fine.
Two places. Okay.
Okay,
and
that's
fine. And I don't want these to be inside the container, because the container will be gone once I rebuild the image, right?
Okay.
So when I upgrade, I mean, even if I just restart, I might remove the container, but definitely when I upgrade my image, it's going to have a new container. So I don't want to have anything persistent inside the container.
Okay.
because it's gone in next restart. So I need to put everything somewhere outside. Okay.
Kind of. I'm not sure why that's outside, I guess.
So because the volume, the idea of volumes is separated from the idea of containers in MongoDB. Okay. So if I run this Docker volume ls, I can see all the volumes I have. And if I remove a container, it doesn't remove the volume. So the volumes have their own separate times lifetime.
Now I get it.
Okay.
That's fine. Yep.
And the advantage of using the internal meaning internal to Docker. Okay, so the Docker is not internal to the container, internal to the Docker world, is that it knows how to handle it better than I do. Okay, or at least that's my assumption is.
Okay.
Okay. So let's let Docker compose YAML. Just a second. Yeah, so you can, how can I copy this? I think what I can do is that here, where I define the service, I can say this is the default, and then later on, or whatever name I can give here, later on here I can say now use the default, something like this, and then I don't need this one. Okay, and these ones will override the ones I have here, I think. Okay, so something like this. So in the other project that I don't want to show, basically we have a lot of these services. Each one of them are using this. Everything is the same except of the command that they run. So basically, they are microservices, but for historical reasons, all of them use the exact same image. Okay. So theoretically, it would be nice if each service would have only installed whatever it needs. Okay. And then you can write it. But for historical reasons, like everything was just in a single image. And we are hurting, but so it's not really good. But that's what I couldn't get rid of that yet. Okay. Git reset. Okay. So this is the Docker compose. Let me see if there is another. Oh, and there is another thing that I can try to show. Let me. Okay, I'll connect it to from my other screen, and then I'll show whatever I can. etc, because I think there is a secret there, so I'm not sure going to show that one. Actually, there is no secret here, so I can show it to you, but also no point in showing the. And I will put it here. Okay. So on my server, actually, this is what I have. So in the etc docker, in the folder etc docker, there is a file called daemon.json. And in there, I can put where Docker has its root. And by default, it would store everything in somewhere, etc, I think, or var, or I don't know, somewhere in the root file system. But the way I use my server is that I have a separate file system for the operating system and a separate one for all the data. So when I upgrade the operating system, I can just replace that part of the server, and the data part is the same. Okay, so this is how I mapped and told Docker basically that whatever you store, all the volumes, whatever you need, put here in this home data Docker, and all the /home is mapped to an external, to a separate disk. So that's my data disk. Also, my home directory is there. So if I replace the operating system, everything in my home directory is also there, kept.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll put it in our README file, just so you have this example. Okay. So what else do we have here in this Docker Compose? We tell it what port to map. So it maps port 6001. I always forget which is the outside and which is the inside. So it's one of them is the inside and one of them is the outside. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is what it maps. It links to this it links to the MyMongo. Okay. So this image basically, I think you could. I didn't say to create a network. I said here to set up links, and I think the alternative, I'm not sure if it's better or not, would be to say, okay, all these things are running on a network, and then it would manage all the network part. Okay, but I mean there are millions of ways of configuring this Docker Compose as well, and this is also unless restart unless stopped, and the cron job. This is the entry point. So this is the command it will run. It will run cron without going to the background, I think. That's the -f. And I don't remember what the L3 here is, but some parameters for cron. Okay? Okay, so this is what I have. Now, in addition, I also have a file called Docker Compose override. And I have this file, the example, stored in GitHub, in Git, and this one is not, because on the production system, I only want to use this file, the Docker Compose. But on the development machine, I would like to override some of the information. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll show you why.
So is that a Docker thing then, those names?
Sorry?
So is that override, is that a Docker thing? So if I've got a file called whatever .override, it will override?
Well, that's specifically for Docker Compose.
Yeah, okay. So
I don't know about if Docker has a Docker override something, or if it needs it anyway.
Yeah,
okay?
I think I meant Docker Compose. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the main default Docker Compose file, and this is the one that it will read if it's there.
Right.
And it will override stuff, so you can change something. Okay. And I think these are the same. So if I run diff between the two, well, they are not. So I'll have to figure out why. But theoretically, what I want, or normally what I want, is that I store it in GitHub, so I won't lose it, but it won't be, it won't work. And locally, when I set up development, then I just copy it to this version, to this name, and then I have everything locally as I wanted. Okay, so what is in there? So we change the web, and it is mapping the external disk, the current directory, so dot, of the external disk to /opt internally inside the container. That's what it does. That's the main thing it does. Okay, and same with the cron. So what's the issue and what I'm trying to solve? So the correct thing to use Docker in production is that you install everything in it, all the third-party libraries, and also you copy your software inside the image. And then you have an image that has everything in it. Maybe not the configuration, so the secrets are not there, but everything else is there, okay, in the Docker image, all the code base, which is good for production. But for development, you would like to have all your source code to be on your external disk and have a mapping. So this is why I use this. So when you have so in the real Docker file, it will copy all the source code and put everything in the right place inside the image. But when I'm developing, I would like to make sure that I can change the external files with my external editor, not something inside the image. Okay, I mean, this could run on Windows, and I could use some Windows-based editor, but I can't run it inside Docker. Now, I wouldn't do that because I prefer VI, but that's my story. Okay,
yeah.
But inside from inside the Docker, you might, I mean, in order to run your editor inside Docker, you need to install it there. It's not a big issue for Vim or Emacs, but you wouldn't want to install probably Visual Studio Code or something like this into your Docker image. So you run that on your host computer, and then this way you map whatever is on your host computer, so this dot, to the /opt of the image. And I picked /opt because in the Docker file, this is where I put all the stuff. Okay, so that's what's just a totally arbitrary name, folder name. Okay, and so this is the same. This happens the same with the opt. And here you see and I don't remember why I did this. It was a while ago. Here I already set up the network, the local network. So probably there was some confusion when I was building this, and I didn't know well enough the Docker Compose yet. So I'll have to get back to this and clean up the mess I created here. Okay, because I think this could go to the Docker Compose file. It doesn't have to be in the override. And then I don't need all those hostname things and none of those things. And so here are two. Okay, one of them, okay, so Flask debug. So this project is written in Python, and it's using Flask, which is in the Perl, it's like denser or modulicious, okay? It's sort of a lightweight web framework.
Yeah, I've used it, in fact.
Okay, and if you have Flask debug turned on with this, then it will automatically reload the application whenever you change any file. And it will give all kind of debugging messages and whatever. So it's good for development, but you don't want this in the production. So that's why here in the override, I have this flag. And the pydigger config is basically just, I guess this is where the configuration file is. So this is the way I tell the application that I'm writing where the configuration file is, and I guess there is a defaulter or something. Okay, because in the Docker Compose itself, I don't think that I set this. No. So I assume that I don't remember exactly now, but I assume that this variable is something like that. That I have a fixed name where the configuration is, but if this variable exists, then use this as a file name. So for development environment, or testing, I can override the configuration. So I think that's it, right? Any question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Pretty obviously, well, I guess pretty obviously, actually the /opt in the two in the cron and the web are actually kind of, although they're actually linked to the same place, they're actually different, aren't they? Was that true? I mean, I'm not quite sure I'm asking the question.
These two ops,
yeah,
because these are
they will look the same.
Yeah, but these are two containers.
Yeah.
So they are, think about two machines, two separate machines. They don't have this /opt and this /opt have nothing common. I mean,
but except that you're mounting them on your current directory, so they will actually look the same.
Right. So wait a second. In the development machine, they are actually the same folder, same external folder.
Yeah. Okay.
In the production machine, they are two separate containers with their own copy of the source code.
Yeah.
And then if they change it, well, that's their problem or whatever they're doing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And here is the Docker file that I use. So it's using Python 3.9, which is, I don't know, 2-3 years old now. 3.11 came out half a year ago, I think. So it's pretty old. I installed some stuff in it. Then, and this is slightly interesting, I remove, so in Ubuntu, when you say apt-get update, it downloads the list of libraries that you can install.
Okay.
And puts them here in varlib up lists.
Can I just put? Yeah. I've got a minor domestic to sort out.
Oh, so
I just want to. Oops, sorry. No, I didn't. Can you just give me about 30 seconds?
Okay.